Hi there, welcome to Sunnyside Journals. I'm Catherine, and I have a flip through today of a journal that I recently completed, uh, created from a book that I estimate was probably published around 1894. It's a big book. This book is a good size book, and because I restored the spine from the inside out, it's a nice solid book now. I'll explain why I think it's from 1894. This book is from a series of encyclopedias that Funk and Wagnalls published between the years of 1892 through to 1896. And this is book number 25 of a series of 32 books. So that's why I sort of guesstimated that perhaps maybe it was published around 1894. So this is definitely an 1890s book, and it very much is. I could tell just from the wear and tear on the spine, from the color and condition of the papers, what was inside the spine when I pulled it apart, all those sort of things. This is definitely a book that's very, very old, and needless to say, it's about 130 years old. So, and that makes it. I just love that sort of thing. I think it gives it lots of character. I immediately loved it because of the spine. I loved the half sunshines here and here and here in gold, and I'm not sure whether the camera is picking it up adequately, but the color is almost like a deep denim blue. And because of these sunshine shapes here on the ends, that's why I added some curved laces for the end pieces here. It just sort of continues that little theme, if you can see there. So yes, this book, let's measure it because I forget. As I said, though, it's pretty big. If it comes out to here, it's 6.25 by 9.5. And it is, come on, baby. It's a big, big baby. It's a little bit over 2-inch spine. So, big book. It's got 212 pages of varying sizes. I like to mix things up a bit, so there's mostly full-size pages, but there are a few smaller and odd and shaped ones in there too to add a little variety and interest. It has a hidden hollow back spine. As I mentioned, I restored the spine, and then I put the new text block in using a hidden hollow back method. And I have included a few of the original pages from the book in various ways, and we'll see when we come to them. The cover, I had been saving this cover, which leads me to the next thing I wanted to explain about this beautiful book. The cover is an illustration of an old master's painting of a Spanish princess from the 1500s. And back then, a Spanish princess was called an infanta. And her name was Infanta Isabella Clara Eugenia. And she actually was the Spanish monarch over the Spanish Netherlands, I believe it was. She reigned for a little while. She lived to the age of 67, which back then is, I think, quite long. Anyhow, I had been saving this picture. I fussy cut it. Well, there wasn't much to fussy cut. I saved it out of a book that I had been fussy cutting out of just because she kept calling to me. I just thought, wow, look at this child. And she's got this little pet monkey. Here, I'll pull it up closer so you can see her. Her hair is done so beautifully. She was in a book of poetry about flowers. And the only reason I can think she was in there is because she's got a little daffodil tucked into her braids there. So I'd been saving her to use for something. And when I finally made the decision that this book was just, I'm going to fill it with the things I enjoy, and there's not going to be any rhyme or reason to it, there's no theme to this book, It just simply is things that I like, and hopefully you like it too. I've given it a book plate, and I took the liberty, this is removable. I took the liberty of giving it the title of an all sorts commonplace book because it holds all sorts of commonplace things. But you can change that when you get it. As you can see, that slides right out, and you can just write on the back of that, and it'll fit right back in. Uh, let's open it up. I have added ties, permanent ties to it. These are tea-dyed and made out of old cotton bias seam binding. I doubled it up, and then I was still worried that it might still want to fray. So that's when I got the idea of sewing through it to give it extra strength, and I really love the way that turned out. To me, it seems like this book is so old that the ribbons wore off, and whoever owned it just did their best to try and make do with whatever they had to give it new ribbons. And that's what I wanted. So inside, you'll see that I have put in new end papers. And again, this is another good time for me to explain. When I create my junk journals, I truly use junk. Everything in this book, except for the glue, the thread, if I had to use a bit of distress ink here and there, which I did, I love distress ink, and a bit of washi tape here and there to fortify some folds, and I used a bit of washi tape here, so 3 inches. Those are all new. And this book plate right here, that is new. Everything else has been repurposed. All the papers, all the illustrations, all the laces, everything is absolutely secondhand. Most of it is vintage, some of it is antique. Yeah, so I hope that you find that interesting, and I hope you enjoy seeing what you can do in a junk journal with junk. If you do see scrapbook paper here and there, such as this page, I have found it at a thrift store. I don't buy scrapbook paper from big box craft stores, and I also don't print off digital prints from my printer. So when you see interesting things, it's because I've fussy cut it out of a book, or I've fussy cut it, as in the case of these roses, out of vintage wrapping paper. And this card here, this cabinet card, I made from an illustration that was in a book biography of Laura Ingalls Wilder. And this is actually a cabinet card of her parents. So that's Carolyn and Charles Ingalls, the real ones, not Michael Landon. So, and I tucked them in there. You can put whoever you like in this little tuck spot. If you've got someone special you want to put in there, you can take Charles and Carolyn out of there. They don't have to stay, but I think they look rather lovely there. So, this book was owned, this is the original Ex Libris here, and it was owned by a gentleman named James P. Snook. And he was born in Fortune, Newfoundland. I was able to find him in my ancestry searches. He was born in Fortune, Newfoundland, and then he moved to Toronto, where he was a city controller for most of his life. And he was obviously an avid student of religion. And this lending library label that was in this book appears to indicate that he donated all of his books to his church that he attended, because it says that he donated 367 volumes of books to that library, and this was one of them. This was book number 63 out of 367 books, and I didn't want to lose these. They're precious, and they really add to the provenance of the book, so I added end papers over top and around them and created them to look older. And then I just added a few little beautiful things that I thought might end up in a commonplace, book that somebody is just saving the things that they think look pretty. I added the numbers 1894 here so that the new owner, in case they forget and are wondering what year this was published in, because it was not included in the original text block of the book. I had to research that to find it. Now you'll know that it is from approximately 1894. This little tag was from a package of wedding invitations that I found on one of my thrift hauls. I apologize, I've got ink all over my hands. I just finished working on Mr. Snook's book, so if you see ink on my fingers, I apologize, but it's dry. It will not get on the book, so fear not. So I tucked that there using photo corners so that you can write on it. Perhaps you want to make this into your own ex libris, your own name, the dates that you keep this as your journal. That is completely up to you, and it just tucks right back into those little corners easily. This is antique lace along here, hand crocheted, that I've sewed on. Inside here, you'll see I've created a little pocket, and on the pocket is a vintage film slide frame that I've taken the film out of it, and I've added in just a little black and white photo. And this woman to the left here is Beatrix Potter, and I'm not sure who the child is, but this woman's Beatrix Potter, the famous illustrator and author of the Peter Rabbit series. Because this is my favorite things, I love tea cards, so I've tucked in a few tea cards in behind Beatrix. They go in there. And then back here, besides, this is also from the wedding invitation books that I found, the printable wedding invitation packets that I found at a thrift store. I antiqued them to look older. They were pure white when I got them. I did find a photo of Mr. Snook, and this is James P. Snook, apparently, according to Ancestry.com. So one of his relatives published this photo and made it available to the public. And he lived, you know what? I will write down below the year that he lived. I know he died in 1921. And he died at the age of 76. So there you go. Do the math. Here's a little tag here. This is the original first page of the book. Here's a page out of a little old dictionary. And I chose it because somewhere on here it has preacher. And this is the preacher's homiletic commentary. So I chose this page because it says preacher. This is a page out of a gardening diary that I've tea-dyed. This page here, this spread is from a ledger book, and I liked it because it's got the numbers up in the corners. This is the other side of that book. The original owner wrote in it in the year 2001, May 11th, 2001. It says here, Darlene here overnight for Borden. If you don't want to know about Darlene visiting overnight for Borden, you can collage over that. I like it because it shows that somebody else owned that book before I did. Now, here's the other side of the little dictionary page. Because this is a book of things that I love, I took liberty here, and I love robins. So I fussy cut a robin feeding their baby. This is an Eloise Wilkin illustration from a little golden book. And I've glued on some tissue paper, tea-dyed tissue paper, so that you can journal on this page still. And this is the original page out of the book. So it says up the top there, you can see it says Homiletic Commentary, the Acts. Here's the other side of that tag. I've made a little tuck spot here, again with an illustration from Eloise Wilkin. And I included a vintage postcard purely because I love it. I love the pink. I love that bright turquoise blue. And you can journal on the back. This is definitely, to me, this screams 60s. And I was there in the 60s. So I feel like an expert. I lived through all of the 60s. Here's another little tuck spot here with just I cut this out of, I believe that was a book from on the history of the Canadian Tire, but I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. Some tea-dyed paper for journaling on. More journaling space. I use a lot of file folders to back some of my journaling cards, and this was left over and I didn't want it to go to waste, so I just glued it right on to the edge of this signature page. On this side, I made a tag out of another one of the opening pages of the original book, And I loved that frog, and I had been saving him for a while. So he's on there, and there's plenty of room to journal on the back. And he goes there on display beautifully. I put in a permanent ribbon bookmark that can move anywhere in the book as you please. As I said, pages of varying sizes. This is from a 1940s book on how to draw. This is part of an envelope. The brown part is part of an envelope that was dated 1925, so it's almost 100 years old. I made a journaling card out of another page from the original book, and I just did a little collaging here. I had been saving this little mushroom just because I loved it. Again, this book is full of things that I love. A little rusty safety pin up there, and more of the lace that's also on the edges here. And again, because it's full of things that I love, I loved this little toad, and I had been saving him for a special occasion too. So he goes into this book. This came from an empty binder that I found on a thrift store, and I just liked it because it says historical background. So, and I thought this is quite a historical book, so that's why it got put in here. Lots and lots of journaling space you'll see in this book. This is vintage composition paper from a children's school book. I made a little tuck spot from an altered window, a tea-dyed window envelope, and inside I made a journaling card from a vintage playing card that has a little squirrel on it. And then on the outside here, I put a sticker from a book that I found that was full of 1940s Danish stickers. And I just loved that. It sort of looks like a robin to me with that big red tummy. So I just put it there. Again, lots and lots of journaling space. Although I had a lot of fun in this book, I didn't take up the whole book. As you can see, I left a lot of room for you. An invoice page, tea-dyed. All the tea dyeing I did myself. Vintage page again. This is a page out of a gardening manual. Actually, I made that book last month. I put onto it a fussy cut illustration out of another one of my favorite books, which is The Country Bunny and the Little Gold Shoes. And I just love that book about the little girl bunny who has 21 children, and she still wanted to be an Easter bunny, and she did it. It's a really great feminist book. If you're wondering for your children or grandchildren, I love that book. So, and I put a tab up here and a bulb pin with some little vintage buttons. On this side, again, my favorite things. I love hot dogs. And I fussy cut this from a 1970s Reader's Digest advertisement that is, of course, for French's Mustard. More tea-dyed paper. This page is actually a map, and I put it in the center and it folds out. This is from a 1922 atlas that was printed in Holland. I've used here's an illustration of how I will use washi tape if I use it. I've put along these folds just in case this paper wanted to decide to crack, because it is from 1922. It's almost 100 years old. So that's pretty old. I'd crack too if I was that old. Pretty, eh? It's from that old garden book. Here's another pocket that I created from that same envelope that was from 1925. I was able to actually make 4 different pockets from that one envelope. And I just love how this looks. And that is a genuine stamp that the owner or the person who was working customs that day put it there, and it's stayed there ever since. So again, it's almost 100 years old, 1925. I tucked into it just a few little things. I liked her. I made a little journaling card out of her. And then this is just a receipt that I tea-dyed, so you can journal on it, or you can put it wherever you like. Put that in there. This, the beginning page of this signature is actually from one of those Walter Foster How to Paint books. I just liked it because I loved all the different colors on it. And this book is full of things that I like. Here I used one piece of it that I had to trim off the bottom to make it fit in the book. So I put it here so that it could be a tuck spot. So for now I just put some tea-dyed paper there. You can put whatever you like in there. Here's the ribbon bookmark again. These things are terrific. You can move them wherever you happen to be working at the time and find it easily. Here's another little page out of that dictionary. I tried my best not to use up all the good spots. I think this is marvelous. You're going to have fun filling that. It's nice to have a big spread. Here's another tip out here of tea-dyed paper. This is the other side of that dictionary page, and I glued on, every once in a while I love to glue in funny little advertisements from old newspapers and magazines, and you can see this one's from 1957, and it's a treatment for stomach distress. And I liked it, so I put it in. Here's the other side of the Walter Foster, the page from the Walter Foster book. I made a tuck spot out of the signature because I just thought that looked pretty. And I tucked into it because it's my favorite things. I love the children's storybook, Blueberries for Sal. So I tea-dyed this page right out of the book. And because it's blank on the other side, that gives you lots of room for writing on. Don't worry, I have a special copy that's mine. But I did find a copy at a book sale, so I used that one to cut up. This is a photo that I found online. It was taken in 1912 of the Epworth League from the Westmoreland Methodist Church. So these people could very well have read this book at some point. This church, these were members of that church. How cool is that? So there it is. And I've made it to look like it's in a photo album. I put the little black photo corners. And then it's a pocket. So I just tucked in a vintage flashcard in there. This is a page out of an old opera book. This is a page from a 1933 music book. And you'll see on the other side the date is actually still at the bottom of the page. This is a page out of a 1950s teacher's manual on how to read. Another spread, and I left it alone, which is hard for me because I love guest book spreads. But I left that for you. Here's the other side of that music, and you can see down here in the Roman numerals, it's 1933. The other side of the opera book. And here I did a little bit of collaging and had a little bit of fun. Anyone who knows my books, I usually like to put funny little laxative ads in it. So I did find this one out of that same 1970s Reader's Digest that I found the picture of the hot dog that we just passed. This was in that issue. This is a envelope that I stuck right to the page, and I put this little, it's got dried pansies. I think they're Johnny Jump Ups, but they're the real deal. They're in there underneath this cellophane, and you can journal on that. And then as well, I glued it in like a pocket. So this little, I just put a tag back there so that you know it's a tuck spot. You can put whatever you like back there. And then I did a little bit of collaging. This is a wash stand and a fussy cut out of a book that I have. And I thought, you know what, if you use too much of this, you might need this afterwards. So I just used a little artistic liberty there. Some more old laces here, sewn in. I left all the threads long, you'll see. If you don't enjoy that, you can trim them off. They've all been knotted and tied, so just get your scissors and clip them close. This is a photo from a book that I had called A Photographic History of Ireland, and it's a beautiful book. It's also very sad, but it's very beautiful as well. I made a tag. This is from another book that I did a few weeks ago on, I forget, it was a home decor book. Anyhow, this page didn't get used then, so it got used now. This is a vintage button, and I loved the color of the button, and it was nice to have a reason to use it because I thought it looked nice with the hay. And these sheep, again, I've been saving them. I just love the look of that mommy's face with her beautiful little babies there. I know what it's like to have twins, and she looks very proud to have her babies there and on guard with them. So no rhyme or reason. Why there's sheep in this book, who knows, but there you go. Actually, there's a lot of sheep in Ireland. We saw it. They were all dotted all over the fields when we went to Ireland. This is the other side of that photo. So I didn't want to waste it. So I made another little tuck spot and I put some tea-dyed paper there for now. You can put whatever you like there, or you can even lift that off. This is from a 1929, I think. It was a magazine from the LaSalle University for Accounting, wanting people to go to their university and take accounting. This is from a vintage ledger that I found when I was thrifting out in Prince Edward County, Ontario last summer. And I love this one. I love the numbers up in the corner. I love that font. So more room. This is also from that drawing book. Lots and lots of journaling space for you. Lots of sewing on the edges. Here's a little tuck spot with some deer. I'd been saving that. Didn't know where to put it. It went in here. And just some little journaling pieces. I just tucked them in there for somewhere to go. A little card out of a children's book that I put backing on and made it into a journaling card. This one sort of became a foresty spread here because this is from a book called Father Screech Owl and His Family, and there's this cute little screech owl there. So again, this tuck spot is made from that 1925 envelope again, and again from the same children's book that I got this from. I created this. I actually was able to save the acorn word and stick it on there too. So a little bit of lace there. This is a page from Little Women, and then I had a little fun with the other side. So you can journal in here. There's an ad from that old 1957 newspaper again for if you needed to purchase a monument. They begin at $14.95. That's not bad. And then it's also a little tuck spot with a little stamp of a little bird back in there. Here's some tea-dyed blank music paper. Another page out of another children's book of poetry. The other side of Little Women. This is what I do sometimes to create journaling space, the tissue paper that's been tea-dyed. I wanted to leave the little squirrel showing because he's very handsome. And then I added this fussy cut acorns and leaves. This is from an Eloise Wilkins story. A little golden book. This is another one of those tags that I put right into the signature. Here's a little pocket that I created from a vintage box. You used to mail away your film, and then you would get your slides or your photos back. You had to actually put them in the mail and then wait for them in the mail. And this was a box, and you can actually see the postage stamp is still on it, and it says February 19th, 1969. And so I tucked a few little things in here, some tea-dyed papers, and then all of my journals always go home with a bookmark with the two Nanas on it. So that's my mother, who's known in our family now as Nana, and then that's my Nana, that's her mother. And I actually look like her. I got her apple cheeks. I ran some little vintage ribbon down through the holes of this page, and it was long enough that I was able to make a pocket on this side. Here's another sticker from that 1940s book with the Danish stickers in it, and then I created another journaling tag from a page in the book. And because it's my favorite things, I love Where the Wild Things Are. So that's actually Max from the book. I cut it right out of the book. But again, I have a keeper book and I have a cut-up book. And then I just collaged with a few fun things. That's some vintage wallpaper there, and that's from that 1957 newspaper again. So I just tucked that there. It's just a photo because I liked it of some old street in a little town in Ontario somewhere. This is from a 1940s children's school reader book. This is the other side of that check registry, and I just tuck a little tag in it. In you go. Thank you. The other side of that tag. A ruffle, a paper ruffle made from music paper, and the stripe down the middle is just little offcuts from when I cut up an old little golden book and I had leftovers. This is a vintage card. I actually got this in Happy Mail from my friend. And so I put that there for journaling on. And just a little tuck spot created from a page out of a book. I'm going to run out of time. There's so much to see in this book. I can't have a favorite things book and not have Edith Holden in it. So I created a little spot here with the mother thrush. And then I made a journaling card from her egg. So in a way that goes in her nest. And then this was still on the same page. So I made another journaling card out of that. And then it was on page 24 and I didn't want to waste that. So that's there. Again, just a little collage and made room for journaling. This is the rest of that envelope from 1925. It's a good sized envelope. You can put things in at the end of your book. More of the vintage wrapping paper. And then I thought this sticker kind of looked like Mr. Snook. So I added it with a bit of collaging. So that's it. If you're seeing this video, that means that this book is listed and available in my Etsy shop. And I hope you'll go and take a look. And thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Bye.